Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Omniviewer, and this is a Jakks Pacific giant size Godzilla. That's right, a product from the upcoming Godzilla remake is finally available. This one is available at Toys R Us right now and nowhere else. I just happen to have one with me, so I figured that I would unbox it, review it, and let you know what my thoughts are. These, up until today, were the two biggest Godzilla figures that I currently have. This is an Imperial Godzilla figure from way back in the late 80s, early 90s. Second Godzilla figure I ever got. I don't even think they make them anymore. And this is a more recent Bandai USA Godzilla based on the Final Wars design. So, just to measure them, the Bandai Godzilla at his tallest is a little bit over 10 inches, foot to head. That's taking into account the fact that he's kind of crouched. And from nose to tail, he is almost, he's just a smidge over 14 inches. So, and that's again taking into account that his tail is curled up. If it were stretched out, it would probably be longer. The Imperial Godzilla, you will already note, is significantly bigger. At his tallest point, which would be about this part of his head, he is just a bit over 13 inches, just, I'd say 13 and a quarter. And from nose to tail, roughly, let's say he's about 16 inches. And that's again taking into account that his tail is curved, but it's shorter than this one. Now, for contrast, here's the Jakks Pacific Godzilla. Again, still in the box. But you will notice the significant difference. This guy is, well, he's just about a little over 22 or 23 inches tall, and when fully assembled, over 40 inches. I believe the official length will be over 43, and that's because his tail will be all straight out, but you'll be seeing that part soon enough. Still, biggest darn Godzilla on the American market. I don't know if they have anything bigger over in Japan, but here, this is as big as you can possibly get. Like to get a close-up of the packaging here. We can see there's all sorts of depictions of Godzilla, and by all sorts I mean it's the exact same image done over and over again, but it's a good image. Check this out. Swinging tail! That makes it an official action figure. On the back here, we actually have the backstory, apparently, for this version of Godzilla. I'm not actually going to read it, but if you want, you can pause as I'm scanning back and forth, see what you can make out. It sounds, if you want my thoughts, sounds good. It sounds like they are trying to stick closer to what Godzilla is about, and I appreciate keeping the 1954 date. Here's something interesting. If you look in the box, you can sort of see a cityscape behind Godzilla and water around his feet. I like that touch. It makes it feel a bit more authentic somehow. It's hard to describe exactly. But anyway, enough about the packaging. Let's open this sucker. Now, since I'm a collector, I'm going to be careful with the packaging. I'm going to use a knife to undo the tape. It's taped in 4 places at the top. Hang on. This part's being a little... Did I get it? I don't think I... Let's see. Yeah, I got it. So, sort of odd the way it's split here, because they have the openings, so you can see it's kind of uneven. So that's something to bear in mind as you are opening it. We got some styrofoam stuff up top for packaging. Okay. I may want to attack this actually from the other side. Gently flip it over. The bottom has instructions on how to put the tail on. That's helpful to know. So, we see here that it is again taped at the bottom. So, sever that. Remove, or at least try. It's a little bit tricky. There we go. So, here's the end of the tail, which is segmented into two parts, it looks like. Let's get the water base that I mentioned out of there. It's not easy. Very irregular packaging, and there's tape everywhere. I think we'll have to slide the rest of it out somehow. You know, there's no point in me trying to film this whole thing, so why don't we stop here and we'll pick it up again once I've actually gotten him out. So I turned him back over to try and get him out, but noticed that he's actually tied with straps to the inside of the cardboard, and I have no idea how to properly separate the cardboard pieces, so instead I'm going to separate him from the strapping. Very gently taking a scissor to cut. And there's also some holding the last segment of tail. Take that very gently, and hopefully there are more. You never can tell with these things. Whoop. And holding him up. Well, it's not the most graceful execution, but he is free of the box. So following the directions, which again are on the very bottom of the box, we have the tail. This is the first part. And that apparently you twist in somehow. I see. If you get a close-up, you'll see that the certain sections are bigger than the other. So that's where you insert, and then you twist to lock it into place. And this last part you just shove in. And this is the completed figure. And look, the tail even does swing. So, like I said, really huge. Let's look at some of the articulation. So starting at the head, we have a head joint that can let him look left or right. His mouth can open too, to about there. And he has a little tongue inside. Teeth fit together quite well. So that's that part. Moving down, his arms can move up to about there and down to about there. And his wrists can apparently twist. They have a full 360-degree rotation. This is about where they would be at rest, I think. Moving down even further, we have the legs, which can move up to about there and back to about there. But around here is where he would be at rest again. Unexpected. His feet can apparently twist a full 360 degrees. Both of them. Unusual feature to have. Moving on to the tail. You can twist that part, but that's what holds it in place so you don't want to. And like I said, the tail can swing back and forth about that much. And the tail is what makes up most of this guy's length. Other details to note, the spines are soft. They're made of a soft foam, as opposed to the rest of the body, which is a harder plastic. The limbs, hands, feet, the tail is also soft, pretty much all the way through. Oh, very end of the tail can also twist, you know, in case you're curious. But the spines, should be noted, they are softer. And that's pretty much it for articulation. Detail-wise, you know, he's not necessarily as detailed as the Bandai figures, but for the all intents and purposes, it's not bad. The back and chest, you can see the chest here, noticeably less detailed than the limbs, which are really detailed. Interesting, there's a few slots on his crotch right here. Don't know if that was somehow meant to include some sort of roaring thing that they decided not to install, but didn't bother changing the mold. But either way, this is pretty much what he would look like at rest. And he, once again, is ridiculously huge. The face, of course we have the head to look at. It's slightly different from what we're used to with Godzilla because he's got fewer teeth and beady little orange eyes. But that being said, it still looks like Godzilla. More so than, say, this guy did. Hey, what are you talking about? But either way, it's definitely closer in design to what we recognize as Godzilla. I've heard some people say that they have an issue with how small the spines are. I don't really mind that part per se, because if you compare it to this figure of the original Godzilla, you'll notice spines weren't all that big at first anyway. So, actually, comparing the two, I'd say this is definitely a worthwhile reinterpretation. He keeps the 4 fingers, keeps the 4 toes. Actually, if you get a look at his feet nice and close, let's move him so his feet are a bit more in the light. You'll note his feet are actually pretty small compared to the rest of him. If you look at other versions of Godzilla, the feet usually stick out more, like, you know, regular dinosaur or even human feet. These things almost looks more like a Patasaurus or a sauropod, where there's very little definition between the leg and the foot itself. So, that being said, it's the one detail I'm not entirely sure about on this new design, but it doesn't look bad per se. I mean, I've seen some articles that talk about how this Godzilla wouldn't actually be able to balance with feet like that, but you never know. I actually think of that quote from Blazing Saddles. How did he do such incredible stunts with such little feet? And just to reaffirm, we've got 21 inches at the highest point, which is this little spike right here. And the yardstick isn't even long enough. It's, let's see. This is 3 feet. And add to that, because he's hunched forward a little, another foot. So basically he is 4 feet long. That, I have to say, is truly insane. I am the mighty Thor. Women swoon at the very sight of me. And I am Iron Man. I am the poster boy for Marvel. We'll stop the monster. Shawarma? Shawarma. Well, what do you know, folks? I think this might be the first Godzilla figure ever that is actually to scale with little green army men. And they still don't stand a chance against him. So there you have it. That is the Jakks Pacific jumbo-sized Godzilla. It's not necessarily the most detailed of figures, but as Godzillas go, you literally cannot get any bigger unless it was the actual thing. So, yeah, if you live near a Toys R Us and you are a huge Godzilla fan, you may as well pick this up, because Lord knows, you're probably going to want it anyway. Well, now there's nothing left to do but for me to find a place to display it. Where the heck am I gonna put this?